Good morning, Verdexchange. As was mentioned, it's hard to believe that it has been 18 years. As they say in the movies, doesn't it go by in a blink? It was Elliot Abel. Is he here this morning? Elliot here yet? No? Still sleeping. He's here. Who inspired this conference. And as the family member got together and discussed how to brand this new gathering in Los Angeles, it was felt that using the Spanish word for green, verde, and hence the name Verdexchange. But let me let you all in on a little secret. And that is, regarding the naming, in the ancient Hebrew, the word verde actually translates to David Abel. This is a David Abel exchange. This morning, ladies and gentlemen, I have the honor of introducing a rock star of environmental policy. His name, Wade Crowfoot. He stands on the shoulders of the incredible Mary Nichols, who has been an international force on environmental policy for presidents, a boatload of governors, mayors, and international organizations. While Wade Crowfoot's family history does not include Native American blood, his life and contributions are informed by the love of nature as lived by his famous namesake, Chief Crowfoot of Canada. Mr. Crowfoot is a hiker's hiker. And if he had the opportunity to only live outdoors with his wife and family, I think he would jump at the chance. Correct? I think so. There he goes. Yep. He would jump at the chance. I have seen him speak and inspire leaders from all parts of the world. I was with Wade in Asia and Azerbaijan and Europe and many parts of North America and witnessed with humility and awe his extraordinary passion, skill, and impact. As we have seen by the international participants here today and over the years at Verdexchange, California has an outsized impact on global environmental policy, and in large measure, that flame has been kept alive by Wade's over-the-top energy level to influence and lead the future. As Secretary of the California Natural Resources Agency, Mr. Crowfoot oversees 26 departments, conservancies, and commissions and more than 20,000 hardworking employees who are inspired by the mission. As a global clean tech entrepreneur, former Speaker of the California Assembly was mentioned during the energy crisis and Senate Majority Leader, I have met and worked with dozens of folks in the environmental community. And candidly, many of them are just nothing burgers. But this cat, Wade Crowfoot, is the real deal. He inspires me. He makes shit happen. Ladies and gentlemen, Wade Crowfoot.
All right. Well, you never want the person that's introducing you to be a better speech giver than you are, because that is those are very kind words, Bob, and I greatly appreciate it. You have a treasure in Bob Hertzberg. You know this if you've worked around him for several decades, but one of the most creative and effective legislators that has ever been in Sacramento, and now blazing new trails outside of government. So huge thanks. And big thanks for having me. Verdexchange, almost 2 decades old. I can tell you, as I'll spend the next few minutes talking about our progress in California and across California. And I have to say, a lot of what we'll talk about is made possible through innovation and conversations like those that happen here at Verdexchange. A lot of the innovation that has made California a global leader on combating climate change and shifting to clean energy is born of your companies, of your organizations, of your ideas. So David, huge thanks for all the work that you do and for your staying power. I'm so encouraged, as we were talking before today, or when I got here today, about just the level of interest and engagement this year in Verdexchange. I want to say also, having Verdexchange in Los Angeles is so appropriate because Los Angeles is really the epicenter of both the challenges we face. If you live in Los Angeles, you know you are on the front lines of climate change, the driest winter in the state's 175-year history, combined with those ferocious Santa Ana winds, created remarkable destruction. And I spent weeks here in the beginning of the year supporting our departments in our agency, including CAL FIRE, protect people and property and help people bring some normalcy back to their lives. So for all of those leaders from Pacific Palisades and other parts of Los Angeles who are here today to build a strong vision of how to build back and how to recover and become even stronger than your communities were before, I thank you for your leadership and your steadfastness, and just know you have a true partner in the governor and we in Sacramento. Look, you've talked about it over the last day. These are alarming times. These are uncertain times. If you do the work that brought you to Verdexchange, these can be discouraging times. I mean, it's a little hard to get your head around this state of affairs we have federally. Who thought that energy efficiency could be so highly politicized? Or this hostility towards sustainability, the vision of sustainability, building our economy, helping people prosper in ways that benefit the environment and each other. And of course, a lot of the chaos that continues to evolve regarding the international tariffs, et cetera. But I'm not here to dwell on any of that, although we have to navigate it. I'm actually here with a message of optimism and energy. And I want to make two key points. The first is California is on the march. The topics that you've discussed and you'll discuss here this week, California is committed to driving forward. It's progress that we've made over the last 20 years that we will continue to make, and we are not stopping or frankly slowing down. We have the leaders in place that are driving us forward. I've spent the better part of 2 decades working for Gavin Newsom, and I can tell you 2 things. One is these issues are core to why he does the work he does, and 2 is he doesn't back down. We have legislative leaders, and we've had legislative leaders that are full partners with the governor in this work. So you have 120 hardworking people in Sacramento that right now are in session, building more laws, building more policies to support these transitions that you all are driving yourself. So we have the leaders. We have the targets. California has among the strongest targets in the world to achieve carbon neutrality or net zero in the next 20 years, 2045. And in that time frame, we will achieve 100% clean energy, which are remarkably ambitious goals, even more ambitious given the scale of our economy, anywhere around the 5th largest economy in the world, with a population that totals 21 separate states. So we have the leaders, we have the targets, and we have the pathway. You know, if you follow California policy, we have what's called the scoping plan, which is a pathway to carbon neutrality that gets updated every 5 years. It's essentially an equation on how we're going to achieve carbon neutrality, slashing carbon pollution, and expanding carbon sequestration. And we have the policies and programs and investments to get there. Now, this is a challenging time, and no doubt we're going to have to navigate and find our way through, including maintaining our relationship with the federal government. But the fact is, we are well positioned to make progress. Now, look at the proof points of our ability to make progress. 2007, almost 20 years ago, California was one of the first governments in the world to establish a state law to reduce carbon pollution. It was called Assembly Bill 32 or AB 32, authored by Greater LA own Fran Pavley, signed by Governor Schwarzenegger, called for slashing pollution to 1990 levels by 2020. And guess what? California achieved it years early. Another example is this zero-emission vehicle mandate. I work for Governor Brown, and when he put out a moonshot, 1.5 million zero-emission vehicles by 2025. And I can tell you, as the person that went around talking about that goal, we got laughed at. People thought it couldn't be done. And guess what? We achieved it 3 years early. Energy. This governor, Governor Newsom, in the last 6 years, under his administration, 30 gigawatts of clean energy have been installed, including 13 gigawatts of energy storage. In the last year alone, 2024, 7 gigawatts were brought onto the grid, which is more than we've ever achieved. If you recall, in the early part of our administration, we had major reliability issues. As temperatures spiked, as Supervisor Horvath mentioned, we had real reliability challenges where our grid was stressed like never before. Well, fast forward 3 years, we had a hotter summer than we've ever had, and we didn't even have a flex alert because that energy storage came on, because those energy projects came on, many of which you all are probably associated with. So California has set ambitious, audacious targets and has met those targets. And so we have every confidence that we can maintain our progress going forward. My agency works on nature and nature-based solutions to climate change. And I can tell you the progress continues. We just completed the largest river restoration in American history. We removed 4 defunct dams on the Klamath River, led by tribes. This was a decadal movement by tribes, to restore 400 miles of salmon habitat. Salmon, very important not only to tribes, but to commercial fisheries and our coastal economies. And biologists told us it would take probably years for the salmon to actually come back above the dams and repopulate in that habitat. You know how long it took? 10 days. 6,000 salmon breached that first area where the dam had been removed in 10 days. And it was 10 weeks later that salmon were spotted or identified, tagged in the highest reaches of the headwaters up into Oregon, that 400 miles of habitat now repopulated with salmon in 10 days. You may know that 20 miles north of here, we all are building the largest terrestrial land-based wildlife crossing on planet Earth. This is a nature bridge that will connect 2 huge areas of habitat across 10 lanes of the 101 and an access road, providing this remarkable habitat for an endangered population of Southern California mountain lions and all other nature. We brought back animals that were extinct from California, the California condor, the gray wolf. We've even reintroduced beavers where they were extirpated or made extinct for 150 years, nature's engineers. So remarkable things have happened and are happening in California. And these are projects, targets, initiatives. At the time, it was unclear whether we'd be able to reach them. And then consider protecting people, which is fundamentally government's most important responsibility. California, while facing down these climate impacts, as a Mediterranean climate, like other places in the world with this climate, we are on the front lines of climate change. These growing heat waves, catastrophic wildfire, droughts, worsening floods, the weather whiplash of water, coastal erosion from sea level rise. Make no mistake, California is on the climate front lines, but California is also doing more to protect our population than really I would argue, anywhere else in the world. On wildfire resilience, I started this job and there were 5,000 personnel at CAL FIRE. We now have over 10,000 personnel. We have brought on technology that didn't exist 6 years ago, including artificial intelligence that's attached to 1,100 cameras on strategic ridges across the state that immediately spots smoke when it comes and alerts the local firefighting unit. We brought on planes and night-equipped helicopters that were in use in the LA fires. And importantly, our late leaders have invested $3 billion in these upfront proactive projects before wildfires ever come. Those are strategic fuel breaks, prescribed fire in parts of the state, defensible space around communities. And now clearly we have much more work to do, and the LA fires and the horrific impact of these fires is an important reminder that as climate change accelerates, as our population grows, 30% of Californians and a whole lot of Angelenos are in that wildland-urban interface, and that there's a lot that we need to do. But the fact is, California is driving forward on this and committed to doing what it takes. Last month, in March, the governor issued an emergency order using his extraordinary emergency powers to streamline these wildfire resilience projects, giving me and my colleague at the California Environmental Protection Agency, our sister environmental agency, the power to waive environmental permitting laws, CEQA, the Endangered Species Act, the Coastal Act, to get these projects on the ground more quickly if they abide measures to protect the environment. So while we continue to make significant progress protecting California from these climate impacts, we know we need to do more. The governor has been very clear about this, as has the legislator. We need to move more quickly. So while this week you'll talk about energy innovation and new technologies, I hope you can talk about how California can actually help bring these technologies, this innovation to bear more quickly and effectively. The fact is, in California, we spent decades really building the world's strongest environmental protections, which is so welcome given the specialness of this state. But all of those protections, when they're calcified and put on top of each other, make it very difficult to get projects done and make change in this state. And now we find ourselves in a position, as climate change bears down, where we have to get projects done more quickly and affordably. We need to bring on more clean energy, more storage, more quickly. We need to bring on more water projects to build our water security more quickly. We need to bring on more wildfire projects more quickly. And these restoration projects, we also have to bring on more quickly. So we've been driving this movement in our agency called cutting green tape. And you all know the concept of red tape. That's bureaucracy that makes things, that slows down getting things done. We call our efforts to streamline this work cutting green tape because these are cutting projects that benefit the environment. And we've made great progress in recent years, including significantly reducing the cost and the time it takes to actually get baseline environmental restoration done on the ground. And we're taking those lessons learned and now applying them to wildfire, as I said, with the streamlining initiative and in other places. And we have to do more because that is the moment that we are in. So point number one is that California is on the march. Point number two is we are not alone. I know if you come from other countries, you recognize this. There is a global march towards economic and environmental sustainability. With climate change bearing down, no longer is this a conceptual discussion about polar bears in the Arctic and melting ice. This is a clear and present danger in our own communities and our own countries. And the world gets it. As Bob shared, every year, many times a year, we join these international forums organized by the United Nations and other places where the world's most developed economies and the developing world are focused on how to transition their economies to build prosperity for everyone in a way that's actually sustainable over time. And progress is happening. Global commitments have driven progress. The Paris Agreement has driven progress. Now, we know our federal government is going to take a step back on the federal level, but California won't. You can rest assured that in November, when the world meets in Brazil for the Conference of Parties, or COP30, which is a really important moment to redouble investments and commitment to this, California will be there. We were on a Zoom just yesterday with the governor's office and the Brazilian government, really identifying how California can lead this movement of subnational governments, of states and provinces in that international discussion to drive progress forward. We also know investments are being made, and the fact is, no single leader or government or party is going to stop this progress. There's a reason why more solar is being deployed across China than anywhere else in the world combined. There's a reason why Texas actually deployed more solar and wind than even California did last year. It's because your steadfastness, your commitment, your innovation, ours together, has driven down the cost of these technologies. And this movement is on the march. Now, no doubt there will be headwinds because there are certain interests that are attacking this progress, but the progress continues, and it will keep going. I guess, lastly, I would say, and just to share a story that's really inspired me. I follow a scientist named Katharine Hayhoe, and she spends a lot of time, she's a climate scientist, she spends a lot of time breaking down climate change in ways that people can understand. And so I read her book, and she says one thing to people that do the work that we do. And she says during these times, there's a lot of discouraging news. You can read scientific facts about the accelerating iceberg melt. You can get online and understand these attacks on the work that we do. Maintaining hope is essential. It's always been essential in the most trying of times. And she argues we maintain hope by taking action. And so the action that we take today, this week, moving forward, is what maintains hope and what demonstrates to others that there is hope to move forward progress. Okay, my closing story. We just opened our first state park in over 10 years. It's called Dos Rios. It's at the confluence of the San Joaquin and the Tuolumne rivers in the Central Valley of California. We're really proud of it. It's a place where there aren't a lot of parks and aren't a lot of places where small communities, rural communities, a lot of farm worker communities can actually get into a river when the heat spikes over 100 degrees. So we're proud of this park, but this park is also an environmental restoration. And a remarkable nonprofit named River Partners bought this land from an orchard and rewilded it just about 5 years ago. And so we came in and thought, wouldn't it be great if actually we ultimately took ownership and operation of it as a state park to maintain that environmental restoration as a multi-benefit floodplain, but then also to enable people to get out there and enjoy it. And one of the reasons they did this is there's an endangered species called the San Joaquin riparian brush rabbit. And I have a 10-year-old, so I spent a lot of time looking at photos of fuzzy, cute little mammals with her. And it's a beautiful rabbit. It's a distinct species of rabbit. And it was down to we think its last breeding pair that took shelter under an overpass on the 99. And this was several years ago. That pair got brought into breeding captivity, and ultimately, when the population was stabilized a little bit, it got let back onto certain refuges in the Central Valley. But it's not in the area of Dos Rios. So fast forward, River Partners buys this land, starts to restore riparian habitat, that's essentially trees and brush along the river. And they were doing an environmental survey to understand would the conditions be right to bring the rabbit from another portion of the Central Valley to rehabilitate this area, this Dos Rios. And you know what they found when the environmental survey took place? The riparian brush rabbit. The San Joaquin riparian brush rabbit came back on its own. It's a remarkable, we have no idea how it happened. The closest was up the river, across the river, like a dozen miles. But somehow that rabbit that hadn't been identified in that part of the San Joaquin Valley for decades came back. And to me, that is a powerful reminder of the resilience of nature. Like, if we help nature, if we dig into what we need to do, our planet is remarkably resilient. And it demonstrates that every day and every year. So thank you for what you do, and importantly, thank you for what you will do. We will continue to make progress, we will achieve our vision, and we'll do it together. Thank you.
Well, if there's any satisfaction in doing this conference, you just saw it and heard it. We have with us an employee of Wade's, I guess you would say. She's the general manager of the Exposition Park, Andrea Ambres, and we wanted to give Andrea the stage. She did so last May at our 17th annual conference to sort of respond to and elaborate on how this happens on the ground. So, Andrea, please join us.
Well, you can now see why it's really easy to come to work. I get to work with a great boss like Wade Crowfoot. I had the pleasure of working with Wade in Sacramento at the Natural Resources Agency. And while we said, Mr. Hertzberg, there were 26 different entities that Wade oversees, there are actually 42. He has commissions, boards, departments, CAL FIRE, Santa Monica Mountains Conservancy, and wouldn't you know, Exposition Park, which is just down the way from here, which I always encourage everyone to go to. The favorite part of my job is that everybody has a story about Exposition Park, and by virtue and by proxy, we all have a story and a connection to nature. It's just right in our own backyard. And Wade actually has the opportunity to be a part of not only this incredible agency, but all of the different initiatives that we have. I want to highlight something that Wade and I have been spending a lot of time on, and that Supervisor Horvath actually just mentioned, is our commitment to engaging in the LA 28 Olympic and Paralympic Games and trying to make a connection to the environment. What we've been thinking about is how we can uplift and reimagine Exposition Park as a green space, again, in our own backyard. But how can we be the front yard to our global community? When the international spotlight is upon us here in Los Angeles, how can we reflect the values that the California Natural Resources Agency espouses? And how can we make sure that this state of California is well reflected in the global community around our environmental vision and our environmental policies? So what I want to highlight within Wade's comments is really his commitment to this work. We have this opportunity in our hand, just around the corner. Whether it's the $2 billion that has been invested into wildfire recovery efforts here locally, to the riparian restoration that Secretary Crowfoot mentioned, or to Exposition Park screening and to the establishment of a green new space. What we continue to do, both locally and statewide, is promote all of this incredible commitment that we collectively have together, but that we also need to challenge ourselves together to continue to innovate toward. So with all that said, my hope is that we can continue to support Secretary Crowfoot in his mission and his work. We can do that in our own backyard, like I mentioned here at Exposition Park and other places. But thank you very much, David, for always allowing us to lift up all of this incredible innovation, all of this commitment, because we obviously can't do it alone. But with a boss like Wade, I think we're in good hands. Thanks.